Hello, I am Russet Lederman, a writer, editor, and photo book collector based in New York City. I am also an editor of What They Saw, Photobooks by Women, 1843 to 1999. Welcome to Part 2 of Postwar photo books by Japanese women. In this section, we will cover books from the 1990s to the present. With more opportunities for women photographers worldwide and burgeoning digital technologies, the 1990s and onward saw a proliferation of Japanese women photo books gaining recognition. There are so many examples from the past 30 years, and my selection here is just a small sampling. One of the main movements to emerge in the 1990s was Ononoko Shashin, which translates as girls' photographs, a form of empowered self-portraiture that puts women in control of their own narratives. But it is important to note that there are many other themes and areas of photographic interest that also shaped this period. One exception is an example of Michiko Khan, who had already been working for a while and had developed a distinctive surreal sensibility. In her aperture monograph, Still Lives, she creates otherworldly still life scenes with mundane objects, such as flowers, raw sea elements, vegetables, and textiles. A classic book with a single white bordered image per page, the photographs in this book mine a space between the living and the dead. In the mid-1990s, the Japanese art critic Kotaro Izawa reductively coined the term Ononoko Shashin to describe a loose group of young urban and female photographers. Hiromix, who became the primary face of Ononoko Shashin, is best known for her 1996 book Girl Blue. A precursor of selfie culture, this diaristic book, which shares photos of Hiromix's young and affluent lifestyle, initially received a mixed critical response. Although championed by Araki, Hiromix and her peers were regularly derided by male critics as self-involved and overly superficial. Yet despite the criticism, Hiromix became a rising star and was invited in 1998 to publish a book with the famed Western publisher Steidl Verlag. This eponymous book, Hiromix, again shares more photographs of her and her friends. The unfortunate label of Ononoko Shashin diminishes the prescient nature of Hiromix's work. Rather than just images of consumer and youth cultures, Hiromix's work should be more closely aligned with the Riot Grrrl feminist punk movement, in my opinion. There is an empowerment in her approach that subverts the girl label that older male critics attribute to her work. By self-commodifying, she takes charge of her story. Yuri Nagashima, who also suffered from the demeaning comments from Ononoko Shashin critics, is a complex photographer whose various publications include an eponymously titled book from 1995. As a provocative response to her femaleness in a patriarchal society, it reads more like a document of gender performance and constructed sexuality, with Nagashima acting out various female types. Like Cindy Sherman, Nagashima is criticizing female stereotypes and gender norms. In her continued exploration of domestic and gender performance, Nagashima turns the camera on her immediate family in Kazuko, translated as a family. The color snapshot-like photos in Kazuko, her third book, are meant to comment on her family's social dynamics. Shot at a time during much dysfunction within her family that was being suppressed by her parents' wish to fake an appearance of happiness to the outside world, Kazuko unfolds in a free-flowing sequence that is held together with a spiral-bound photo album. Empowerment merged with consumer culture continues in several books in the early 2000s. Almost all have the distinction of the author controlling the narrative, often flouting high-low divisions. Mika Ninagawa, another photographer who emerged in the mid-1990s and would expand her creative reach into advertising, music videos, films, and television, embraces vivid, bright, and saturated colors of pop culture in her 2001 book Pink Rose Suite. A bit older than the other Ononoko Shashin photographers, Miwa Yanagi, who began her career as a schoolteacher, also comments on female stereotypes in Japanese culture, with a particular focus on women's role in consumer culture. Her best-known series, which is showcased in White Casket from 2004, shares surreal scenes of department store elevator girls staged in dramatically lit spaces that both idealize and trap them. Rinko Kauchi first gained attention through her books. In 2001, she released 3 books simultaneously, Utatane as well as Hanabi and Kanako. Similar to Nagashima and Hiromix, she focuses on herself, her surroundings, and a self-created narrative, but with a dramatic difference that suggests rather than overtly addresses a gender discussion. Her images are much quieter, exposing the hidden beauty in plain view in her everyday young female existence. Diffuse light and soft colors capture a leaf against a fence, a partial view of a young girl blowing a bubble, the cracked rind of a watermelon, or a field of wildflowers in bloom. Tomoko Sawada, another photographer often grouped with the Ononoko Shashin movement, released Omiai in 2005. The term omiai refers to the traditional portrait of a young woman that her family would use to arrange a marriage. Sawada, like Cindy Sherman, transforms her appearance to show different types of women. In this case, she is shown either dressed in Western or Japanese attire, in stage portraits taken at professional photo studios specializing in omiai photographs. Her carefully produced images address the expectations and stereotypes navigated by Japanese women. In School Days, published a year later in 2006, Sawada continues her exploration of identity through self-portraiture. Using the traditional school group portrait, Sawada shows students formally arranged in rows with a teacher standing or sitting alongside. All the girls wear the same uniform. Upon closer inspection, all the girls are Sawada in variations of the same guise. Presented as a children's board book, School Days, from a Western perspective, appears to be exclusively a commentary on female stereotypes or the loss of individuality, but this is too narrow. More broadly, Sawada is questioning identity, the various guises we all assume when presenting ourselves in public. Shifting away from the self, Asako Narahashi focuses on the relationship between water and land in her 2007 book, Half Awake and Half Asleep. Shot from a semi-submerged vantage point, in line with where the water ends and the sky begins, her photographs in this book disorient the viewer, presenting a strange yet beautiful world caught in between. Kunye Segura, who has spent most of her adult life in the U.S., creates photographs that challenge traditional photography. Working with photograms that capture performed gestures, her 2007 book Artists and Scientists presents identity through action in a shadow puppet world that suggests rather than confirms. Emi Anrikaji's black and white fragmentary self-portrait vignettes from her 2008 book Ipi have a raw, earthy tactility. Printed on dense matte paper, the images, which begin as color prints that are then copied on an old Xerox machine, flow in a sequence that freely mixes the documentary with the obsessively constructed. In her mid-20s, Anrikaji suffered from a cerebral tumor that left her blind in one eye and with decreased vision in the other. During her slow recovery, she created photographs to explore a microcosmos within the range of her limited visual environment. Small details like strands of hair become the visual poetry from which she constructed objects to photograph. A Dark and Mysterious World is examined in Sakiko Nomura's Kurayami from 2008, which translates as Black Darkness. Frequently populated by male nudes in intimate bedroom settings, the figures in Kurayami are often obscured or veiled in the shadows. Although blurred and grainy, her images also focus on small details, texture, and transitional moments. Over the past 10 years, young Japanese women photographers have continued an interest in identity and self-representation. Now fully in control of their personal narratives, they've also responded to more public histories, such as the 2011 Fukushima disaster, when a nuclear accident resulted from an earthquake and tsunami in the Tohoku region of Japan. Maintaining a focus on the self, Chino Otsuka, who was raised and resides in London since the age of 10, published Photo Album with the British imprint Dewey Lewis. The book covers several series and includes photographs from 1998 to 2012. In photographs that use self-portraiture, Otsuka presents her adult and child self-portraits side by side, combined in one single photograph. This reflects on her dual Eastern and Western background. As the official photographer in the village of Kitakama, a small coastal town in Japan's Tohoku region that was destroyed by the tsunami of 2011, Lieko Shiga saw firsthand the devastation that was inflicted on Kitakima. The eerie and surreal images in Rasen Kagan, her 2013 book, are less a record of the town's destruction, but more a celebration of the lives, rituals, and resiliency of the residents both before and after the tsunami. Shot with the help of the villagers, her photographs are noteworthy for their intense lighting and saturated colors. Shooting with a square format viewfinder camera held at chest level, Mikiko Hara captures the unexpected. Wandering the streets of Tokyo, she quickly clicks away, only to discover what she has shot later upon developing her film. Included in These Are Days, her second book, are scenes of the pedestrians she passes, bored subway riders, and Tokyoites going about their daily routines. What is often revealed is the isolation, social disconnect, and miscues between people occupying a common space. Mayumi Hasakura is a storyteller whose images trade on desire and sexual fantasies based on tabloid news. Located among strip malls in the Gunma Prefecture, the owners of the Crystal Love Starlight Lounge were accused of prostitution within their establishment. In her 2014 book, which takes its title from the lounge's name, a modeled sepia scan of a newspaper article about the accusation acts as an introduction. What follows is an interweaving of 3 series of images, all with a disturbing sense of desire. At the border of fiction and reality, Hasakura's images simultaneously seduce and unnerve. Gender Identity Shapes Momo Okabe's Bible from 2014, which documents the artist's transgender awakening. The book shares photographs of Okabe, their friends and lovers, as they navigate societal rejection and rebirth. A riot of color, Bible contains highly saturated color images of Okabe and Japan's alienated transgender community. Published by Los Angeles-based Little Big Man imprint, Fumiko Imano's We from 2017 has a lot in common with Tomoko Sawada and Chino Otsuka's books. Presented with 2 different colored covers, the book collects self-portraits of Imano with a fabricated identical twin sister. Raised in Rio de Janeiro and educated in London, Imano created these twin self-portraits as a way to provide herself company while overcoming the alienation she felt upon her return to Japan. Photographer Mayumi Suzuki, born and raised in a Tohoku fishing village, lost both her parents to the 2011 Tohoku tsunami and earthquake. Through tipped-in family photos, inserted booklets, and gatefolded pages, the Restoration Will from 2017 recounts Suzuki's return in the aftermath of the disaster to collect the remnants of her parents' belongings. A deeply personal tribute to her father and the bond of photography that she shared with him, the book does not dwell on her sense of devastation, but instead provides a means to process unimaginable loss. Kyoto-based Miho Kajioka also shares a book that deals with Japan's 2011 disaster. In And Where Did the Peacocks Go? From 2018, she focuses on the Fukushima nuclear meltdown that resulted after the tsunami. Centering on a group of peacocks that were left within the Fukushima evacuation zone, the book went through 3 different designs in 3 successive reprints. Printed in black on aged yellow paper with text printed on the inside of Japanese folded pages, it feels like an artifact that could have been found in the wreckage of a deserted village. Small in scale, this book gives the impression of a keepsake that was long forgotten and recently unearthed. Izumi Miyazaki's East Meets West Visual Language, in Watashi to Watashi, translated as Me and Me, is a global mashup with a distinctly Japanese sense of identity, whose roots can be found in cosplay and the mid-1990s Ononoko Shashin movement. Like other Japanese women photographers such as Sawada and Yanagi, Miyazaki exploits traditional Japanese adolescent girl and female roles as a way of gaining a measure of personal freedom within a more tradition-bound cultural context. Born with a rare condition that dwarfed the bones in her lower legs and left hand, Mari Katayama foregrounds her disability in Gift, her 2019 book, that collects self-portraits of the photographer's body and prosthetics interwoven with hand-sewn sculptures that are surrogates for her disabled limbs. Taken between 2007 and 2018, the photographer is quick to disavow that she is exclusively making art from her disability. Rather, she sees it as a means to share her experiences, stating, "You can't separate my body from my work." In every photo book that I've shown you in this lecture, in both parts 1 and parts 2, there is a purposeful spirit working towards the goal of an object that engages all the viewer's senses. I specifically chose to share over 41 books so that I may leave you with the visual wealth and plurality of themes, techniques, and subjects explored in post-war photo books by Japanese women. The blurring of boundaries between book, sculpture, document, artifact, photography, and art object is apparent. But so too is the exploration of themes and attributes that include the interaction of design and content, self-publishing, the transition from documentary to a subjective or abstract visual language, experimental photographic techniques, old traditions giving way to modernism, the U.S. military occupation of Japan, women's role in Japanese society, greater independence, the Uman Ribu movement, documentation of protest, resistance, and counterculture movements, road trips, memory, popular culture, Ononoko Shashin, and a questioning of female stereotypes and their depiction in commercial culture, empowerment through self-portraiture, family dynamics, as well as the impact of personal illness and the effects of a national disaster. In many cases, these themes and techniques are not isolated in an individual project, but overlap and contribute to the rich selection of photo books published by Japanese women. I urge you to seek out these books and experience them in person.